Now in a moment, you're going to open your eyes. Go ahead and open your eyes and just go ahead and stand up. On the count of 3, 1, 2, 3, eyes open, wide awake. It's going to explode, isn't it?
That's cool.
Let's go. Give a round of applause.
Thanks, man.
Do or do not, there is no try. The word try paralyzes us at a subconscious level. The better your imagination is, the more hypnotizable you are. Okay. Steve Jobs literally imagined in his head the iPhone with apps and the internet connected to it and everything. We now have the iPhone.
My guest today is Dominic, a world-class hypnotherapist who helps people rewire their minds. He works with NFL players, UFC fighters, Olympians, actors. He's been featured on ESPN and the Rogan Experience.
I looked up and I was like, oh my God, this is the thing I've been searching for all these years. People in society are making decisions that they think are their own. However, it's actually from some guy that they've never even heard of before.
Dominic teaches people how to break patterns, heal trauma, and make real change through hypnosis. If you ever wonder what hypnosis can really do, you're about to find out. Dom, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Now, before we get into your story, because I'm really excited about to know your story, I want to ask you something that can set the tone for everything. How much of who we are, our habits, our fear, and even our desire has actually been programmed into us? And how do we know what's actually coming from our own perception versus what was implemented by our parents, our society, and our trauma?
Yeah, well, I mean, everything is programming, and in the end, everything is ultimately hypnosis. So there's a great book called Propaganda. I forget the gentleman's name who wrote it. It'll come to me. But essentially, he was if I'm not mistaken, he was the nephew of Sigmund Freud, who was like a famous psychologist back in like the early 1900s. So he created this book called Propaganda based off of some of the teachings of his uncle, who was a famous psychologist at the time. So there's a famous line in the book where he says that, people in society are making decisions that they think are their own. However, it's actually from some guy that they've never even heard of before. So prime example, back in I think it was maybe the 40s, 50s, or 60s, the tobacco companies wanted to get women to smoke cigarettes. And so they tried all these different things. They tried to do like different colors of the boxes and different styles of cigarettes, but they couldn't get women to smoke them. So this gentleman, Bernays is the name. Edward Bernays, something like that. So he put together this entire campaign where they got all these beautiful, slender women, and they did this march in, I believe it was New York City, and they had them smoking, back in the day, they had like those long little things you put the cigarettes on. So they had all these like beautiful women in really expensive clothes marching down the street smoking cigarettes, and they called them freedom sticks. So this whole, the whole propaganda or marketing behind it was to give women to have freedom, right? So, because back in the day, women are like stay-at-home moms and housewives and things like that. So suddenly, after they did that, all kinds of women started smoking cigarettes, right? So now, was that person smoking cigarettes, like let's say their children, maybe they saw their mom smoking the cigarettes, and that programming and that idea came from the mother. However, that idea came from some random guy that nobody's ever even heard about, right? So it's all of it, right? So we're being influenced by marketing that's put out there and campaigns and whether it's the biggest companies like Nike and Apple, like we're constantly being influenced by that. And then also we're being influenced by our parents, by society, by our teachers. So everything is influencing us all the time. That's why before we started the podcast, you asked what kind of music do you listen to? I said, I don't really listen to music sometimes, but because I know what kind of influence is being happened, and I want to sort of make sure that my mind stays focused on the things that I want to achieve and not get distracted by music and the different sounds and the different things that are being said. So it's from everything.
I love it. So before we dive into the science, the skepticism, I want to understand you particularly. What happened to your life? What led you down this path? Why hypnosis? And what did you see or experience that made you believe it enough to dedicate all your life around it?
Yeah. Well, I'd say like most people, when I was 18 years old, I got into business and I was just wanted to build the American dream, make as much money as I can and work really, really hard. And I did that from 18 to 30 years old. And towards getting to 30 years old, I started to just feel this sense of being unfulfilled, lack of purpose, and I just didn't feel like that was what I wanted anymore. However, I was also afraid that I that was the only thing I did my whole adult life. So I didn't believe that I could do anything else.
Yeah.
So I was constantly looking for different opportunities, different ways to make money, but I just couldn't find that one thing. So one day my mom calls me as I'm in the middle of work, hating my life. I'm like driving all around the city in between appointments. And my mom's like all excited. And she goes, "Oh my God, son, I just went to this hypnosis and NLP course and it just like completely changed my life." And I was like, "Oh, cool." I've always been into hypnosis and NLP, as most people that are in like sales and business kind of come across it at some point, right? So she's telling me about it and all this stuff. She's like, "You got to go to it, blah, blah, blah." I'm like, "Well, how much is it?" It's like, a $5,000 course. Now, my mom didn't know this at the time, but 1 month prior to this phone call, I had previously actually tried to start a solar business. I know you're in solar. Mm-hmm. I did that for like a year and a half. I drained all my savings. I racked up all my credit cards and it just didn't work. And so I got to a point where that forced me back into insurance for a little while, but I was still holding on to all this debt. And I just basically was like, I can't pay this anymore. So I just stopped paying my credit cards, called the bank, said, "Hey, come get my car. I can't pay my payment." And that's where I was a month prior to this phone call. So my mom's telling me to go to this $5,000 hypnosis course. I'm like, I don't got it, right?
Yeah.
So December of that year, 2018, she surprised me with the hypnosis course as a Christmas gift. Now, it wasn't the same course that she had went through. It was like a quick 2.5 day introduction course. So I was like, cool, I'll go to the course. And, obviously something's going on in my head that I can't like get over all this stuff that's happening, all these failures and things like this. So I just went to it more so thinking like, I just need help for myself. I wasn't thinking I wanted to be a hypnotist. And truthfully, like, at the time, I didn't know if I could be hypnotized because I went to a hypnosis show before and they did the whole, song and dance, and I didn't go up on stage. I wasn't one of those people. And the other thing is, when I thought of hypnotists, I put them in the same category as like a magician, a ventriloquist. You know what that is? Mm-hmm. Like the little guys that have the dolls that make them talk. So that was my idea of a hypnotist. So doing that was not in the cards. So I went to this course, and in those 2.5 days, the work that we had done, it just like completely transformed me. Like I just literally felt different from the inside out. I just felt like a weight had been lifted. So when I got out of that course, I literally threw up my hands and I looked up and I was like, "Oh my God, this is it. This is the thing I've been searching for all these years." And so I just realized that, look, if I can help people feel like I felt in that moment, and I can, in that short amount of time, like I was like, sign me up, and I could make money doing it. I was like, let's do it. So over the next 2 weeks, I just hypnotized as many people as I can. It's like 100 people for free. Just anybody and everybody that would listen to me, I would do hypnosis with them. And 2 weeks of the day, I woke up, I had 10 appointments to go sell insurance on my calendar. And I threw on all my clothes to get ready to go out the door. And like, as I was walking out the door, I just couldn't get myself to leave. It's like my soul was like, dude, we're done. We're done with this. So I messaged my assistant and I said, "Hey, Rochelle, do me a favor. Call everybody that's on today's calendar and tell them that's it." I said, "I'm never selling another insurance policy ever again in my life." And then I quit. And then my first 2 clients were my little brother and little sister. I basically called them up and I was like, "Hey, I'm a full-time hypnotist now. I'm going to give you a deal, two sessions for like $200. My sister was like, "Oh, okay, cool. I'll do it." And my little brother was like, "Oh man." I was like, "Come on, bro. Just do it." Like, I kind of just big brothered him into him. Like, just give me your money, So anyways, and then, as they say, the rest is history. So that's how I got into it. It was all just random, just kind of
you mentioned that you were in this course, and then after that, you kind of you had like your aha moment, and you found your purpose, kind of. What was that feeling within you? What did you felt exactly?
It just felt like elation, excitement, alignment. Because before that, I was doing so much like anxiety and stress and just all the things from the financial stuff, and then plus forcing myself to go to work every day, and something that I just completely lost passion for. But again, I was really good at it. Matter of fact, not the year I'm talking about, because I ended up quitting that year, but the previous year that I had been doing it, because I did it, I was the number 2 salesperson in the entire company. I had like 4,000 agents, and I'd only been there 10 months. So I took all that money, and that's when I got into the solar thing. And then the solar thing failed, so I went back to insurance for like 6 months maybe. So I was really good at it. Like I was crushing. I just lost that spark and excitement. And so when I went to the hypnosis course, it kind of gave me that feeling of like, oh, this is the thing, So yeah.
And then, so after the course, you were able to learn right away and implement it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And, in this course, it wasn't super advanced, but it was enough to like get the basics done. And again, I just took massive action. Thankfully, I had developed a very, very strong work ethic over the course of doing insurance. Like, 12, 14, 16-hour days, 6, 7 days a week was no stranger to me. So I just took that same work ethic plus all the skills I learned with sales and things like this, and I just started basically just putting it out there. Like I hit up a bunch of people that I knew, my brothers, my friends, my family, like, hey, I'm doing hypnosis. Let me do a free session with you. I was posted on my Instagram. And back then I only had like 4,000 or 5,000 followers, but I was able to and also, so I haven't done jujitsu in a while because I've been injured. I've recently got back into it doing private sessions. But at the time, I was very, very deep into jujitsu, doing it, 2 times a day, 4 or 5 days a week. So then I had a whole like gym of jujitsu guys that I could work with as well. So I started practicing on a lot of them also. So it just felt like this is the thing. Like, here we go.
Can everybody be hypnotized?
Yeah, everybody can be hypnotized. Matter of fact, when I went to my first, now let me say this: if somebody like is completely, a vegetable, incoherent, let's say they have very, very severe like cerebral palsy or autism, then if they can't understand what's being said, or even like somebody that's maybe mute, you could still hypnotize somebody visually. However, yeah, now I'll say this. When I went to my first course, they said people that are autistic and have cerebral palsy can't be hypnotized. And I later on actually hypnotized somebody that had cerebral palsy and autism. It just wasn't so severe where they just couldn't understand anything. Like they had sort of like, they were lower on the spectrum, I guess you could say, for lack of a better term. So yeah, everybody can be hypnotized.
What was the outcome with those type of patients?
So one was an MMA fighter and one was a jiu-jitsu guy. And the woman I worked with, she won her next MMA fight. And the guy I worked with, he wasn't like a competitor or anything. Well, he competed, but it was just what we had worked on is just like releasing some of their limiting beliefs and some of the stuff they're holding on to subconsciously.
Gotcha.
So it was great.
Is there any way to tell if someone is mentally, emotionally, or even physically more open to hypnosis than others?
Yeah. Well, so the thing about hypnosis is what I mentioned a little bit ago is everything is hypnosis. So you're constantly being hypnotized.
Sure.
So every time you watch an advertisement, believe me, advertisers, people in the news, they're some of the best hypnotists in the world. They understand language to the point where not only can they hook you into their reality within 2 to 3 seconds, they can also hold your attention long enough and influence you on a subconscious level to where you go out and buy their product or service and you think it's your idea. But it's not. It's they planted something in your mind and later on you made it happen. So a prime example, have you ever been watching TV late at night and like a food commercial comes on and you're like, oh man, that pizza looks so good. And then you find yourself a day or 2, 3 days later buying pizza and you think it's because you are making the conscious decision, but you forgot that at 10 o'clock at night when you're scrolling on your phone, you saw this advertisement and the way that the pizza was done. So again, ultimately everything is hypnosis. Every great movie has great hypnosis, even so much so down to the way that the camera angles. Like, if you ever notice if you watch like a good nature documentary or something, they'll have like a shot and then they zoom out like this and you can start seeing, and then you start kind of just zoning in. That is literally done on purpose because that wide angle shot like that puts us in trance. Yeah. So everybody can be hypnotized. And here's another good like telltale sign. Have you ever been driving on the freeway?
Yeah.
And you're in very, very deep thought, or maybe you're vibing out to music.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, bam, you like arrive at where you're going and you're like, whoa, dude, who was driving? You've had that happen, right?
Absolutely.
So what's happening there is you went into a trance, which is the same exact thing as hypnosis. The difference is if you're like, hey, I want to be hypnotized for this specific thing, is we're using that state of mind to help you with an outcome, right? Achieve your goals, get rid of some traumas or whatever. So everybody is hypnotizable in that sense. Now, to answer your question, as far as like, how can you tell, or like people that are more open and things like this? So there's a couple things that are really important when you're doing hypnosis with somebody, me as a practitioner, and also the person that's being hypnotized. So number one, we have to have rapport with the person. It's the same thing in sales, right?
Sure,
Influence. So you have to have rapport in order to influence somebody. If you don't have rapport, it's going to be very difficult and their guard's going to go up. It's going to shut down.
Gotcha.
So let's take a prime example. Let's say that I was a Republican, you're a Democrat, and you didn't know that, right? We didn't know this. And I was about to hypnotize you. And before I hypnotize you, I say, oh, you know, Trump is the greatest person of all time. What's going to happen? All of a sudden your walls are going to go up and you're like not going to want to listen, right?
I see what you mean.
So number one is rapport. Number two is respect. And those don't necessarily go in order. And what I mean by respect is you can have rapport with somebody or somebody can have rapport with you. You know, you can have rapport together. But if they don't respect you and what you're saying, it might not actually work. It might not be as effective. So in other words, I have rapport with, say, my little brother or sister, right? I love them to death. Do I respect them in the sense of doing hypnosis? No. So therefore, if they try to hypnotize me, it wouldn't be as effective. Now, I can respect them in a different avenue or a different way. But like if, let's say, for example, so I work with a lot of high achievers, right? And one of the reasons that is because I'm a high achiever myself, right? So one of the reasons that I can influence a high achiever is because they see and they go, well, this guy's crushing it. So I want to work with a hypnotist that's crushing.
Sure.
Whereas opposed to somebody can have the same exact, they could have more experience than me. They could be doing this for 20 years. But if they're not achieving at that high level, somebody that's a high achiever may not want to work with them because they don't respect them in that way. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So rapport and respect are key. So yeah, and so as far as like telltale signs, I guess you could say people that are a little bit more creative are definitely easier to hypnotize usually. People that are more very like logical, like engineers, scientists, not to say they can't be hypnotized because they can. It's just that it takes a little bit longer to get them to that place.
So it's kind of like sales, because like
it's
the one
100%, yeah.
It's like the same for us, for instance, like in sales. The people, the prospect, they are difficult to close. It's like engineer, super analytical, you know, let me ask you 75 fucking questions.
Right.
And then I may or may not make a decision.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I see where you're going with that. Because I watched this video and this lady was talking about, like, you know, put your eyes up, and then if you're doing some weird things with your eyes, then you're more inclined to be hypnotized or not. Is that something that you...
Yeah, so what it is the reason why the looking up works is because when we look up, it signals to our brain it's time to start shutting down, it's time to relax, it's time to go to sleep, right? So if you've ever opened somebody's eyelids when they're sleeping, where are their eyes?
Up.
Rolled into the back of their head, right? So you start to induce that state of that trance. So that's why we look up. The other piece to it is when you can get someone to focus on a point, what ends up happening is they automatically go into trance. So you can come out of trance now, come back to the room, see what happened there. You're still in trance. Isn't that right?
No,
so
I'm
now
not
come back
in
to, okay, yeah, sure. Watch it back and you'll see. So he's all, I'm all come out of trance. He's like, I'm like, come out. And you're like, no, I'm not in trance.
What's going on?
you were.
I just listening to you.
So when you can get someone to focus on something, on a point, what happens is you start, when you can get the eyes to fixate on something, there's a couple things that happen. Number one, if I'm looking around the room like this, my brain's processing so much information because I'm having to go, okay, all the colors, shapes, sizes, textures of this.
Sure.
And then I'm going here, and then I'm going there. So what happens is your brainwave cycles start to speed up really, really fast, right? And when our brainwave cycles speed up fast, we're more stuck in our conscious mind. So if we focus on a point, now our brainwave cycles start to slow down because we're not processing so much information. And when our brainwave cycles slow down, we go into alpha brainwave state and we start going into trance. So when you look up, first thing that's happening, brain's like, okay, it's time to start relaxing, starting to shut down. You focus on a point, the brain's going, okay, we don't have to process so much. And then the other aspect is our frontal lobe controls our eyes. So when you can keep the frontal lobe sort of, I don't want to say distracted, but busy by getting somebody to focus, that allows you to tap into the subconscious mind because again, their eyes are fixated on something. So that's why you see, here's another little trick. The typical, what do they call it? Like a stereotypical hypnotist is like, I'm going to take a watch and go like this, right? So one is they'll put it above. So you're looking up and then you're focused on the point of the actual watch. And the reason why they go back and forth is there's these muscles in our eyelids that if we're looking up, nobody ever does this on a normal basis, right? So you're using muscles you don't normally use. So what ends up happening is your eyelids start to get really heavy. And if the hypnotist says your eyelids, you're going to notice your eyelids getting heavy. So heavy where your blinks begin to slow down. And by doing that, the person's like, oh my God, my eyelids are getting heavy. My blinks are slowing down. So it's what we call a convincer. So it starts to make them think, holy shit, this hypnosis stuff is working.
Gotcha.
But really, it's just their eyelids are getting heavy and they're going into trance. Does that make sense?
I see what you mean.
Yeah.
Got it. So you can use this in sales. You like, if you know the technique about hypnosis, you can use that with your clients. So you can use it with.
Yeah. So one thing is like when it comes to sales, right? People buy based off emotion and they justify it based off logic, right? Sure. So through hypnosis, you can induce emotional states within people that get them to want to buy, right? So we do that through language, the things that we say. And by the way, people are already doing this. It's not like, oh, are you hypnotizing people to buy? And it's this covert thing. No, when you go into a sales situation, you're using hypnosis. Whether it's effective or not is going to depend on, what you're doing. So one of the things when it comes to influencing people on a subconscious level is we have to bypass what's called the critical faculty. Okay, so your critical faculty. So did you notice a moment ago when I was like, okay, come out of trance?
Yeah.
And then you're saying, and then I was like, okay, come out of trance. And then you finally were like, I'm not in trance. Well, you notice you kind of like were like, wait, is this motherfucker hypnotizing me? Like, I don't, you kind of like your guard went up, right?
Okay.
So that there is your critical faculty. Your brain's going, wait a minute. Hold on.
What's going on? Gotcha.
So when you use hypnosis and you use certain words and language patterns, you can bypass the critical faculty and go directly into the subconscious. So there's like different techniques to do this, right? I'll give you an example. If I try to tell somebody something directly, depending on our level of rapport and respect and the situation, they may be resistant to it.
Sure.
Right? Because they're like, well, this guy is trying to sell me. But if I say, hey, the other day I was reading an article and it said this, this, and this, what happens? Suddenly the person allows it to go into their mind because it's no longer you trying to influence them. It's this article or it's this person or it's a YouTube video.
Yes.
So one thing I love to do, and this isn't necessarily for sales, I love to do this with clients when delivering harsh information or delivering, maybe you need to like call somebody out on their stuff, but if you do it, it may either break rapport or something will happen where they'll just feel attacked.
Yeah.
So rather than me telling them directly, like whatever it may be, I can think of, hey, a mentor had shared this with me one time and this is what he told me.
Yeah.
And now I'm giving them the harsh information, but it's through my mentor. Does that make sense?
That's so fun. That's actually what I do. So I play paddle and pickleball, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes my partner does mistake or whatever, and I'm really, really competitive. Really competitive. And I see he keep doing the same thing. So I know that if someone come to me and say, hey, bro, like, do this or do that, me personally, I will get the feedback because I'm a high achiever.
Yeah.
But then I know that people are getting like, kind of with the guard up. So what I say is like, hey, by the way, I took lessons last time and someone shared with me this. And that's what they told me about it.
Yeah.
And I know like I can go away, like he's not going to get offended.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
And he'll take the advice.
Or when they say like, I need to think about it. Sometimes I say, yeah, that's exactly what Maria said last time. But then what happened was that, and then I create, I tell them the story about what happened with Maria, for instance, right? Yeah. So I love that.
Yeah. So there's quoting. There's also what we call authority quoting. So if you can take somebody who's an authority to that person, and again, let's say the Republican Democrat, if you're a Republican and I say, hey, Donald Trump said this, you're going to take that in a higher. Now there's two more layers you can do. One is what I like to call correcting authority or adding to authority. So a prime example is like, everybody's heard the Einstein quote, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result is definition insanity. And you know what? He's actually incorrect. You know why? Because What he should have said is doing the wrong thing over and over again, expecting a different result is the definition of insanity. Because if you do the right thing over and over and again, you will get different results. It's like if you are eating healthy food over and over again, if you're exercising. So what I just did there is I took a genius and I corrected him. So what does that do to me?
Sure.
It puts me in the same light, right? So yeah, there's different, and that seems like it's not hypnosis, but it is. I'm influencing the subconscious mind,
implanting
an idea, yeah,
into their software and uploading the system, updating the system.
Yep. And then if you want to go even deeper,
please do.
So the other day I was listening to a podcast, and in this podcast, this gentleman was talking about one of his mentor's employees had shared something with him that whenever you do hypnosis, it will transform your life.
Okay.
Now, what just happened there? I did something called triple quoting. So if you notice when I said, I was listening to a podcast the other day, and this guy was telling about his mentor and his employee, what happened in your mind? What were you thinking?
Yeah, you're
kind of like,
what's going on with
like, like who? Right? So if I say, oh, my neighbor was telling me that his uncle's best friend, your mind goes, huh? And so it confuses the mind so much to where you just go, okay, whatever. And then your mind opens up. So it's a way to, because I'm triple quoting. Is this making sense?
Oh, so what you're saying is like kind of creating a confusion?
Yes.
It helps for us to penetrate into the deep state of the mind.
Yes, exactly. So there's also like, for example, what we'd call a pattern interrupt. So back in January, I was doing one of my in-person live events. And as I'm speaking, I'm talking, the alarm starts going off, right? Burr, burr, burr. So I know as a hypnotist, hey, this is a complete pattern interrupt to everybody in this room. So I immediately start giving them suggestions that are empowering to them, right? Because their mind is like, what's going on? What's going on? So rather than me freaking out, I'm like, you guys are successful and you're this, more of as a joke. But think of it a pattern interrupt like this. Let's say some random guy that we don't know came to this door right now and was like, guys, come over here. Come follow me. What would we do? Like, what the fuck is that? Yeah. Right? However, if the alarms went off and there's a pattern interrupt, that same exact guy could be like, guys, come follow me. And what would we do? We'd be like, oh shit, okay. It's because the fire alarm interrupted our pattern of doing a podcast, of having a conversation.
But there is a justification of what's going on, and then there is a better trust in the potential stranger.
It's that, and it's also our mind is we're like looking for the next direction.
Gotcha.
Where do I go? What do I do? And so if they show up and go this way, so when you interrupt people's pattern, what happens is their subconscious mind becomes open to suggestion because they're looking for that next direction or the next thing of like, hey, come over here. So when you're using triple quoting, you're confusing the mind because the brain's going, wait. So my dad's uncle's cousin or my dad's uncle's son, that's three people. My dad, my uncle, and his son. That's my cousin.
Sure.
But if I say my dad's uncle's son, your mind's like trying to figure out, wait, what layer is this? And you just go, forget it. And so it opens up.
But quick question, because we in sales, right? We know that a confused mind always say no.
Yeah.
So because you must be really, really good in confusing the mind and then leading them to the right path.
Right.
So how do you do that?
Well, you're not confusing them in the sense of, so this would be something that I would use, not necessarily a sales scenario. I like to use what I'm talking about here, again, when I'm delivering harsh information or I'm delivering, like I have a client that's maybe fighting on something and I need them to see that what they're doing or saying is incorrect.
Yeah.
So rather than me saying you're wrong, I can say my brother's uncle's cousin's friend said you're wrong in a roundabout way. So what's happening is, although they're confused in that moment, their mind just checks out and goes, okay, I don't even know what's going on. Let me just listen to the next thing. So the next thing becomes where their mind is open to the suggestion. Does that make sense? So it's not like a confused mind. It's a different in the sense of like, a confused mind doesn't buy because their mind is. So if you give somebody 20 options, they're like, oh my God, what am I doing?
They just say a knock on the door, right? And then they say, hey, by the way, we're doing the solar project in the area, whatever. I don't understand anything about solar, whatever. Maybe I'm not explaining the pitch properly or whatever. And the confused mind is going to incline to say no. Mm-hmm. But then if I have the right tools in my arsenal for me to explain what's going on, explain them why they need it and why they're in pain and how I am able to help them, they would probably say yes. So a good salesman is able to bring people from point A to point B. Now, a master salesman in this case is able to eventually confuse the mind, enter, and then still be able to alleviate the pain. So how can I do that in a real case scenario?
Yeah. So let's say, for example, I'll tell you something that recently happened with me. So I had this gentleman that I was going to hire to help me with my event. He wanted like 50 grand. I was like, I don't want to pay 50 grand for that. So anyways, he ended up offering some other training or something. It's like a smaller training with a group of people. It was like 10 grand. It's like, okay, I want to test that first. And then if that works, then I can hire you for the 50 grand thing, right? So I buy his 10 grand thing. We jump on a call and he starts showing me all this stuff about what to do in my events. And this guy's very highly skilled at this. Well, he was throwing out so many things that by the end of it, I was like, man, I really don't know what I'm doing to the level that this guy does.
Yeah.
So therefore that confusion of me being like, I don't even know what I'm doing, made me want to seek him out as the expert. Matter of fact, once we got off the phone, I was like, dude, I'm down to pay you that 50 grand to help me with my event, because he was the expert. And I was so confused at all the information he was sharing with me. I was like, I need to hire this guy because I'm not adequate enough to do this on my own yet, in the sense of, because there was so much information that I didn't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but would you say is that a confused mind, or would you say is that like a self-realization of someone else's?
No, it was both. I was like confused, like, wait, what am I supposed to do? Like, this is too much. It's almost like if you were to hire somebody to fix your car,
Sure.
right? Like, and he's like, oh, we got to do this and this and this. You'd be like, well, fuck, I don't want to deal with it. You deal with it, right?
Okay.
So it was like my mind is confused in that way. Now, however, I agree with the whole like confused mind doesn't buy. However, it doesn't mean that you can't confuse the mind to still influence it. Does that mean just because you confuse them, they're going to buy? No, that doesn't mean that. It's more so of like, how do I get you to accept ideas without resistance? So if I can get your mind to start thinking like, wait, what was he saying? You know, my brother's cousin's son, what? And then your mind just goes, okay, forget about it. In that moment, you start to open up. Does that make more sense?
Got it. So now that we live in a society where attention span is like critical, right? There is like 0.1 second or whatever, everybody scroll.
Yeah.
How are we able to eventually confuse the mind and delivering the message? That's actually what I want to learn, because it's so interesting what you're saying about the confused mind, and something that I never thought about it that way. So I'm really open to.
And look, I use this more so when I want to deliver information. I don't really use this in a sales context, because you also got to consider that the context and what you're doing it is important. Right. So if I just went to somebody in a solar sales situation, I'm like, they might be like, wait, what? Almost in the sense where that could actually break the rapport because it sounds a little weird. But if I'm using it with a one-on-one client and I want them to accept an idea or a belief that they're resistant to, then I can use it in that way. Right. So you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So you also have to consider the context. Like, for example, I wouldn't take a solar client and be like, okay, focus on the point of my finger.
Yeah.
Because it'd be like, this isn't, that would actually break rapport, right? So you got to make sure you're using it in that way. And so what was your question? How do we what?
My question was, so how are we able to effectively bring the confused mind and actually deliver the message in a proper way?
Got it. So basically what I'm saying there is here's another thing with the confused mind, and maybe there's a little bit of maybe confusion isn't the right word per se. However, often, and I think what you're talking about with like a confused mind, they are confused. And one of the reasons they're confused is sometimes people can get caught up in the details. And when you have too many details, it creates internal conflict. And when there's internal conflict, it's very hard to move forward. So as an example, let's say there's a couple that they're going through divorce, right? And if they start getting into, well, I want the house and I want the car and I want the money and I want the kids and I want the piano and you get this and I get that. Well, what happens is they're focused on all the tiny little details that they're missing the big picture. And when you're focused on all the tiny little details, like the engineers and the scientists and things like that, they're missing the big picture. So what you want to do is when you get people that are conflicted, you want to take all that information and you want to go big picture and say, hey, okay, cool. There's 20 different things we could sit here and argue about in the divorce thing.
Yeah.
What's the big picture? What do you guys ultimately want? What do you actually want? What's the higher purpose of all this? Do you really want the car? Do you really want the house? Or Do you want to just separate and go about your own lives and just be happy in your own way? Because that's really what they want.
I see what you mean.
So if you can take somebody who's conflicted like that and you get them to think about big picture. So in a solar situation, to be, well, this one's blue and this one's black and this one's this size, this one's this, amount of wattage, and this one's over here and this one's over there. They're missing the point.
Sure.
So what's the higher purpose of all that?
Yeah.
They want to save money or save the world, right?
Yeah.
Basically is what it is. So you get people to stop focusing on the details and then go big picture.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So if you were able to explain hypnosis without clinical terms, just in plain English, how would you describe it?
I would say hypnosis, I would describe it how I mentioned about the driving the car, because everybody has had that experience.
Yeah.
Either that or when people have that experience where maybe you're laying in bed, you're reading a book, you're on your phone or something, and you kind of doze off, and then you kind of snap back and you're like, wait a minute, did I fall asleep or did I just blink for a long time? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I see what I mean, yeah.
Where you're kind of like, wait, what just happened? It's that that state of mind. Now, most people, when they think of a hypnotist, they think of a stage show. You bring someone up on stage, make them bark like a dog, cluck like a chicken, and that stuff is actually real.
Is it real?
Yeah, it's real. My very first experience with hypnosis in a hypnosis sense, not like driving and things I mentioned, when I first moved to Las Vegas, I went to a hypnosis show, and I always thought it was fake. I'm like, these people are paid actors, something's going on. But anyways, the hypnotist, there's like, I don't know, maybe 100, 150 people in this room, in this, auditorium. And he does this thing. There's like 30, 40 people that come up on stage. And then he does his thing. And then, he takes some people off. And then there's like 10 people, right?
Yeah.
Now, I wasn't one of the people that went up on stage. Well, what's happening is those people, the people that you see do those kinds of things, they are typically people that are already sort of outgoing. They're already people that are
showman,
exactly. And what's happening is, here's another way to describe hypnosis. So you ever been to like a bar or a nightclub and you're sober and there's a lot of cute girls and maybe you want to go talk to them or you want to dance, but you're like, your mind's kind of like, oh, what if this, what if that? And then what happens? You get 2-3 drinks in you. What happens? Suddenly, you're talking to all these girls, you're the life of the party, you're dancing, all this. So it's a very similar thing with hypnosis. It kind of relaxes that part of you that's sort of like the chatter mind where it's like, oh, what if this, what if that? So those people are typically people that are already outgoing. They just need that little bit of encouragement. Yeah, a little bit of a push, which is more of like just relaxing their mind to be like, okay, go and have fun, right?
But how does the showman pick those?
Yeah,
people?
So he doesn't do it in a sense like, oh, he looks in the crowd and goes, you're the perfect person. What he does is a general induction with the whole audience. So say it's 150 people. And then there's a certain amount of people that will feel compelled to actually come up on stage. And then he does more what we call convincers or hypnotic tests. And throughout those hypnotic tests, he'll see who it's working on the most effectively. And then based off that, when they see those people that are like really, really into it and the people that aren't, they'll start dismissing all the other people. And they only keep the people that like they're seeing that all the tests they're doing are working and they're working fast. And then those become their subjects. So they're not like looking into the audience and going, I think this person would be good. It's more of kind of a filter process of bringing everybody up and have them.
I see what you mean. So you mentioned that things is actually like you can actually let someone bark and they don't want to bark.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's weird,
but they
right?
need to be like more outgoing or like.
Yeah. There's a certain percentage of the we call it somnambulism. There's like a certain percentage of the population that would allow themselves to do that. And here's the thing as well, like if I went to a hypnosis show now, I would probably be one of the people on stage, right? Because like a lot of that stuff back then is like insecurity. I don't want to look stupid. I don't like, and now I don't care. So even though back then I wasn't that person, that doesn't mean that I couldn't change and like be more open. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, no, it's real. And obviously there's boundaries, like, certain people aren't going to do certain things. Like if you tell somebody they might hump a blow up doll or bark like a dog or cluck like a chicken or dance like they're, whoever. But if you tell them, hey, take off your clothes, like that's where they'll shut down. They'll be like, no, right? Now you could tell that, hey, take off your clothes, and some people would, right? You get a stripper up there or something, she might be like, oh, this is my job, so no big deal. So, again, what I talked about is like earlier is, you can't hypnotize somebody to do something that they are not somewhat open to. So if I say, go kill that guy,
Sure.
and you're not a killer, like you're not just going to go kill that guy.
So is belief required for it to work?
No. So what it is, you can't believe it's not going to work, but you don't have to believe it's going to work. Okay. So let me explain. So,
please.
And this is something this is something I knew unconsciously. However, I couldn't pinpoint exactly how I'm going to lay this out for you. So I was listening to a podcast or a YouTube video the other day, and this gentleman was talking about how there's 5 types of clients that you work with, especially in like personal development and like the service industry, right? So level 1 of a client is just straight up winners. So these are people that like, no matter what we do, no matter what it is, we're going to find a way to win. Sure. So it doesn't matter the program, the book, the whatever, we're going to extract the value and make something of it. Now, typically winners are the people that they don't need to see other people do it in order for them to believe they can do it. So these are like the Steve Jobs, right? Nobody had created an iPhone. There was no such thing as apps and all this stuff. But he had the mindset of like, I don't need to see other people do it. I'm going to actually go out and create this. I'm going to take something that, and create it into our reality. So that's like tier 1, high performers, high achievers. We win. We always find a way. We always extract the value. Then we have tier 2, which is, if so-and-so can do it, I can do it too, right? So the example that was given in the video I was watching was before Roger Bannister, who was a first gentleman who broke the 4-minute mile, nobody had broke the 4-minute mile. Well, very shortly after he broke the 4-minute mile, all these people started breaking it because they said, hey, he can do it, I can do it too. The third level of client is somebody who's indifferent, meaning they don't necessarily believe it's going to work. At the same time, though, they're not pessimistic and they don't think it's not going to work. So they're just like, I'm open to it. Let's see what happens. Then we have the 4th level of client, which they need to be convinced. They need to be sold on why it's going to work for them.
Influence the how.
Yeah, they need like a lot of encouragement, a lot of like, pushing. And then the 5th layer of client is the person that wants to sell you on why they can't. Right? These are like the special snowflakes that nothing works for. Oh, I've tried everything. So think of them in like a workout context, like a diet and exercise. These are the people that are like, I've tried all the diets, nothing works. I've tried all the, and
I already run the numbers, but it didn't make sense.
Exactly. And they're just like, they're the people that, again, they want to sell you on why it's not going to work for them. Gotcha. They're the special person. It's like all these other people are getting results, but you're the one that isn't. Is it really the thing or is it you? So I say all that because you asked, do you have to believe that it's going to work for it to work? Not necessarily. However, you can't be person number 5. You can't be person number 5 that says, I'm going to prove to you that this isn't going to work for me.
Gotcha.
But if you're open to it, if you're like a winner who's like, everything works for me, or you're your 2nd layer, which like, well, if it works for them, it'll work for me. Or if your 3rd layer of like, maybe, or you need to be convinced it'll work. However, and here's the thing about layer 5, a lot of that comes into people don't want to take responsibility for why their life sucks. So they want to blame these outside circumstances. And the other thing is with often, so our limiting beliefs become a self-fulfilling prophecy to feed our ego. Okay. So I know it's kind of a confusing statement, but what that means is that, let's say, for example, I believe... I
love the way you mentioned that.
It is true. Yeah. So let's say, like, I believe bald men can't be successful. And I just say that, or bald man can't get girls or something. Well, what happens is, unconsciously, in my experience, I will create that so that I could say, I'm right. You see, I'm right. I knew it all along. So if you get like people that get into like, I'm a woman, so therefore I can't make the same amount of money as a man. Well, in their experience, they will create scenarios subconsciously where to prove to them that they're right, because they want to be able to say, see, I knew it, I'm right, to feed their ego.
Amazing, because I do the same things, but like, for instance, with parking spot, like I believe I'm the luckiest person alive. I believe that if I go out, I'm gonna find parking, like in the place that I'm gonna find parking. And I'm waiting for that. And people can use it in both ways. People can use it to be a victim.
Yes.
Or people can use it to fucking do whatever they want in life.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the same belief, but using different way.
Right.
It's amazing.
It's because again, our beliefs become a self-fulfilling prophecy to feed our ego. So you could say, see, I knew it all along. I told you. And that becomes our reality.
So whenever there is that part of hypnosis. Does that is be able to be measured by like a brainwave or something like that?
Oh yeah. I'm not like an expert on
Sure.
as far as the science on everything. However, I do know that there are different brainwave cycles that our brainwaves operate at, and when you're in hypnosis, so we have beta, alpha, theta, delta. We also have gamma, which is like when you're in a very peak performance, like that's when you're, fight or flight, you're playing a sport, you're in that like zone, right? So that's gamma. That's like the highest when your brainwave cycles are going. So beta is what we're normally in on an everyday, working, doing things. But as soon as we start to go into that trance state, whether it's reading a book or driving, or even if we just close our eyes and we take a couple deep breaths, our brainwave cycles start to slow down because we're not processing as much information. And then we go into theta. So theta is that zone where you're kind of like, wait, am I here? Am I not here? It's when you're driving and you drive for 20 minutes and it felt like 5 minutes, you lose that time.
I see what I mean.
And then delta is when you're sleeping.
Yeah.
So all of that can be measured. In the state of hypnosis is between the alpha and that theta state.
I love it.
Yeah.
I know I asked you this off record, but I want to ask you while we are recording. When someone is hypnotized, are they still in control, or will they be aware of what's happening, or will the subconscious take over completely?
Yeah, they are absolutely aware of what's happening. If you've going back to the hypnosis show, it's funny because people think hypnosis is this like crazy thing that is going to be like a psychedelic experience, or it's going to be ayahuasca, or I'm not going to be there. No, if you look at people that are in a stage show, they are literally wide awake. They're looking at everybody in the crowd. They know exactly what's going on. So they're conscious and aware, except it's like this feeling of like, I know what's happening and I know I could go against it, but I almost don't want to. So I'm just going to go along with whatever is being done or whatever's being said in hypnosis. So when you actually go through hypnosis let's say in a therapeutic sense, you will be aware of what's going on. Sometimes you might fall asleep and you kind of like doze out. Maybe you're tired or whatever. But you're aware, you know what's going on. Again, if I said, hey, go shoot that guy, your
boundaries
up. Yeah,
the
boundaries would go up, right? So, yeah.
What's going on when I see people doing like sleep and then,
Yeah.
Do they really go to sleep?
No, they don't go to sleep.
No.
So the reason why we use the word sleep is because what's actually happening is they're going into a trance. So we're taking them from that beta brainwave and we're cutting straight into alpha or theta. Huh. So we're just going there faster. So let's say I were to do a traditional hypnotherapy session where I'm like, okay, look up, stare at the space, take a deep breath, close your eyes. Okay, bring your attention to your forehead, relax your forehead. And I did the whole deal, right? So it might take 5, 10, 15 minutes to get you to that place where you're in that like hypnotic sort of trance-like state, where a rapid induction cuts through that and goes directly into the subconscious mind. Now, the reason why we use the word sleep is because what we actually want them to do is say, hey, close your eyes, relax, and go into trance. That's too long of a statement. So by saying the word sleep, we know that means, hey, close my eyes and just like go limp. So it's a way to just shorten what we're wanting to say, but they're not actually sleeping. They're still aware and awake of what's going on.
Gotcha. But how do you know that they're going to actually follow your instruction or not?
Yeah. So there's a couple things that play into it. So it's, again, rapport and respect has to be established. One of the things that you would do before that is do some hypnotic testing. Again, you're testing the subject to see what level of hypnosis they can experience. And once you've established that, I've never had anybody, I mean, maybe, my daughters, when I try to mess with them sometimes and they don't want to be hypnotized and they're like, no, daddy, no. But like when somebody's like, hey, hypnotize me, and we do the whole thing and we do the sleep, like it works every time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What type of individual do you think I am in the hypnosis spectrum?
In what context?
Like as someone that is going to be hypnotized eventually, like what type of...
So here, what's funny is before I got into hypnosis, I used to think that only gullible, weak-minded people could be hypnotized. And then when I started working with UFC fighters, Olympic athletes, Navy SEALs, all these high-level people, and I'm legitimately not making this up. This is like true to what my experience has been. Those people are the easiest to hypnotize.
That's crazy.
They're the easiest. You know why? Because number one, in order to become a high achiever, to be the 0.001%. Like you think Olympic gold medalist, Navy SEAL, NFL, like how many kids play football in a year, millions or, however many, and there's only however many that are in the NFL. So I say that because you have to have one hell of an imagination to be able to get yourself to that point, right? Like you have to have so much visualization, imagination, and belief in yourself to make it to that level. The second thing is hypnosis is simply just following instructions, right? So if you've ever, again, like let's say somebody, they've got, I've got ADHD and I've got this, they've got all the problems, right? They're the special snowflake. So those people are more difficult because you give them instructions. They can't sit still. They can't focus. They can't follow instruction. Well, guess what? You give a Navy SEAL instructions. Hey, you want this? Do you want this outcome?
They'll do it.
They're going to do it.
Yeah.
And the same thing with an NFL athlete and all these people. So the highest achievers are the easiest to hypnotize. And again, I'm not making that up. That's just what I've seen in my experience. Like they're the easiest to hypnotize. They always get the best results, like because they already have that mindset of like, I'm going to do this. People that are, again, like the special snowflakes, nothing works for me, those are the people that are the hardest.
Gotcha.
So I would say you'd be pretty, I don't want to say like, you would be hypnotizable because number one, you're a high achiever. Number two, you are interested in hypnosis. So the questions that you're asking, it's not like you're trying to prove hypnosis wrong. You're not trying to debunk it. You're like, how does this work? What is it?
I'm generally coming from a place of curiosity.
Yeah. So when people are open and curious, remember, if you're level 3, you're not like, hey, it is gonna. I don't know if it's gonna work, but I'm not gonna say it's not gonna work. It'll work. However, if you're number 5, where you're like, nope, nothing works for me, I'm not hypnotizable. Okay, then you're right, and I won't even waste my time. Like why am I going to give you my gift for free? Because you want to prove me wrong? Cool, you win. I don't give a fuck. I'll spend my time with somebody else. I don't care. So yeah,
I see what you mean. So everybody can be hypnotized, but then like my question is like, probably you already answered it, but can someone be hypnotized without knowing it?
Yes, and let's say, so remember, when you're watching movies, you're being hypnotized.
And you don't know that.
And you don't know it, right? And it's done purposely. They want to capture and hold your attention. When you're listening to, say, a podcast, right? So yes, you can be hypnotized without knowing it. Now, can you be hypnotized to do things against your will, like in that moment? No. And what I was going to say is, now let's say, for example, you say, hey, can you hypnotize me? Or I bet you can't hypnotize me.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you're completely shut down, your guard's going to be so high that anything that I do is going to be a little bit more challenging, right? To where maybe I could wear you down over time. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's something called like conversational hypnosis, which we touched on a little bit about what I talked about, the quoting and things like this. There's also different ways to grab people's attention, because when you slow your voice down, people start going into trance, don't they?
Yeah.
And when you pause, now I'm being overt, right? I'm being very like obvious with it, right? So people, I started talking to people, they might be like, there's something called the power of the pause. So when I do my events that I put on, when I come out to speak, let's say you introduce me. All right, everybody give a round of applause for Dom the Hypnotist. I come out. I just look at everybody like this. Now, the reason why is because when I pause, what happens in that moment is their critical faculty goes down and they're like,
interesting.
What's he about to say, right? Now, if you introduce me and I come right out and I'm like, hey, guys, da-da-da, some people's guards might go up because they're like, whoa, what's happening, right? So when you can create those pauses in your conversation, you slow down the rate of what you're speaking, and also using, say, embedded commands where I can tell a story and use specific words in a specific way that will induce trance. And one way to do that is on the words that are, say, like the word focus or relax or calm or peace. Now notice you start to feel all those emotions, right? You feel really relaxed right now, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I was saying, say I'm in trance now. When you speak in a lower barreling tone, that communicates to the subconscious mind. So if I said, focus, relax, be calm, it's not agitating, but it's making the brainwave cycles go faster, and you're like, zzz.
I see what you mean. The words are not matching the interaction. The words are not matching the emotion.
Yeah. So
Gotcha.
if I want to say I'm saying a sentence, and within that sentence, I want to again grasp your attention. I might say like, the other day I was talking to my daughter, and I told her to pay attention, and then suddenly she looked at me, and she focused now. In that moment. Now, what did I do? I told a story about my daughter.
You mentioned 3 key
I mentioned
words.
pay attention, and I sort of what's the word? Amplified it, or I
Put the effort on
put
it.
the effort. Like, so I wouldn't say, hey, the other day I was talking to my daughter and I told her to pay attention, and then she said, focus. That's not gonna create that. So whatever words you want to use to captivate is where you emphasize it. That's what I'm trying to say. So you emphasize it and you do it in a lower barreling tone, right? So you ever notice like the best radio hosts speak in a low tone,
Yeah.
and it makes you want to just listen to them?
Yeah.
It's because that tone communicates to the subconscious, which starts to grasp your emotions, as opposed to like a high pitched, really, really fast. So see, I'm so much in trance now that these guys are probably going in and out of trance. They don't even notice it. He's on the computer. Every time I say focus, I bet you the screen gets brighter, and all of a sudden everything tunes out. It's funny. So, and I'm not even trying to do that. That's just part of what's happening because they're in the room, right?
Yeah.
So if I was telling you a story and I wanted to start to hypnotize you, I could start using these little the words and then the embedded commands and the tone to start to draw in your attention and captivate you.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So let's just say I am mastering hypnosis years down the line, and I am on a date, right? That's for the girls, right? To making sure that they learn something from it eventually. Let's just say you're on a date and you're watching, maybe you're watching a speaker on stage or whatever. Could you be influenced in a real time without realizing it?
Can you be being influenced?
Yeah, can you be influenced in real time without realizing it? Maybe you're on a date, or maybe you're on stage.
Oh, yeah,
that
yeah.
can happen.
You mean the audience or the person that's speaking?
The audience.
Oh, absolutely.
The receiver.
Yeah, like take like a Tony Robbins. Like Tony Robbins is a master of hypnosis. He may not say that or claim that, or I know he knows, he talks about hypnosis, but like a lot of the events and the way that they're put on, they're there to influence people, right? It's to influence people to believe in themselves. It's to influence people to sign up for their products and services. So yeah,
Nice.
people are being influenced all the time.
So clearly, like, you're a practitioner and you have good intention, but let's just say there are practitioners with bad intention. Now, is there any way you're able to protect your subconscious, like a mental firewall? That
Yeah.
You're able to implant in your patient or whatever.
Yeah. So I like to use something called delete reject, which means that just like a computer, if there's something there that I don't want, I can delete it. Meaning, like I remember one time I was having a conversation with one of my buddies, and he was talking about how hard something was. It was like business, or it was something to do with business. I don't remember though. It was like, oh, the bigger your business gets, the more problems you have and things like this. And in that moment, in my mind, I'm just saying delete, reject, delete, reject, delete, reject. Because that is a seed that could be planted that may start to create doubt within me, within my business. So I just immediately want to get rid of it, right? I'm just like, I don't want to hear it. I'm deleting, I'm rejecting, I'm not allowing it to sink in.
Okay.
Now, as far as like a firewall in the sense of like
can someone actually install a firewall, a boundary inside their mind, so they can't be manipulated by bad intention, by bad hypnotist or outside influence? Let's just say.
I don't know the answer to that question as far as like a specific firewall. I will say this, that anytime you're always being influenced all the time, right? Even if, again, like we're talking about music, even if I know the music's bad, if I keep listening to it and I listen to it long enough, eventually it's going to get me. It's going to crack me, right?
Yeah.
So the best firewall is to just avoid those situations altogether. And I would say even for me, like one of the things that I absolutely rely on is my intuition and just knowing, like going with my gut feelings, like, is this person have good intentions or bad intentions? If I start to notice they have bad intentions, I'm going to start putting up those mental barriers. But as far as like, if I'm understanding, like, can I create a way where somebody, I implant a suggestion in their mind that every time they're being manipulated that they can't, I don't know how to do that. Maybe it's possible. I don't know. But as far as like, can you be resistant to it or reject it or not be influenced by it? Yes. However, again, if you allow yourself to be around it long enough, it's like the saying, show me your 5 best friends, I'll show you who you are. Well, you could be, if you're the one successful person, you hang out with 5 shitty people, man, it's going to be hard to like stay that successful person because those 5 people are going to eventually influence you, right? So it's the same thing with hypnosis. Like you can have the firewall up, but it's only going to last so long if you're constantly taking, like being barraged by, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
it makes sense.
Best is just to stay away from it and put yourself in a good situation.
I love it. So how do you identify the line between persuasive communication and bad hypnosis eventually?
Yeah. Everything always comes down to intention.
Sure.
So there's no such thing as like hypnosis is good or bad. It's what is the intention of what it's being used for, right? So like what I was talking about earlier with the quoting and all that, like that's stuff that I use with my clients to help them install empowering beliefs. If maybe like the example I gave you with the 5 people, right? So if we ever get the number 5 person that's like, nothing works for me, I'm the special snowflake, I can't tell them they're a special snowflake.
Sure.
They're going to be pissed.
Yeah.
They're going to be like, fuck you. No, I'm not. So what I'll do is I'll explain it how I did. Hey, I was listening to this YouTube video the other day and this guy said this. So now it's no longer, but at the same time, I'm influencing them to go, oh shit, maybe I'm the special snowflake. So they can stop being that and they can be the winner. Now, I can use that same exact scenario to like, again, with bad intentions to create a negative belief in someone. So it's just like any other tool. A gun could be used to save your life. It could also be used to murder somebody in cold blood. So what is a gun good or bad? Well, it's neither. It's who's using it and what their intention is.
So what we see in the movie that
most movies are bullshit when it comes to
okay. Like the guy sitting over there and closing their eyes and what the fuck just happened.
Yeah. Most movies, like Now You Can See Me Too. There's this part in there where the guy, he's like, he has a twin brother who's also a magician. So these magicians, they do this thing and they're escaping this sort of like crime that they're doing or something. And they go down this tube, and when they go down this tube, they're supposed to end up somewhere in like New York in like a garbage bin or something. But they go down this tube and they wake up and they're in like, I think it's Macau or something in China. I forget the name, but they're in full blown China. They're like, wait a minute, we just went down this slide. How the hell did we end up here? And then the whole storyline is this guy's brother shows up at his house to deliver a pizza. And on the pizza box, so he shows up, he can't see that it's him. He has his hat on like this. And he says, hey, did you order a pizza? And he says like yes or no or something. And on the pizza box, it says sleep. And so the guy spins the pizza box and it's just saying sleep. And then all of a sudden, it's like, that's not fucking real.
Happen.
No,
okay.
Dude, if somebody shows up with a pizza box on my house, like we're fighting right there. If you do what he did, like spinning it and all, like I'm not being hypnotized. Like we're either fighting or you're going to be leaving very quickly. Like we're not doing that. So a lot of it is very, very sensationalized, you know?
Now, talking about the brain and, healing part of it. Why do we keep doing things that we know are bad for us?
Yeah. What's interesting is a lot of times is we can logically know something is bad for us, but our subconscious mind thinks it's protecting us, right? So I have a client I was recently working with, and he's really, really successful. He wants to be a billionaire. And so he's like, hey, I want to be a billionaire. Okay, cool. Well, what we discovered through our session is he had a belief that he's not good enough to be a billionaire. So he makes millions of dollars. However, he believes he can't do billions of dollars. So when we go to let go of that belief, his mind was resistant to letting it go because he was like, well, if I become a billionaire, I'm gonna have to deal with all these more problems and this and this and that. So although that's not a very empowering belief to have, his subconscious mind was like, well, I don't want to let go of this belief because it keeps me safe. It keeps me from having to deal with all this stuff. So as an example, like in a lot of my seminars, I'll have somebody come up on stage who's had some crazy illness forever. And we'll go through and like, prime example, I had this one woman who had fibromyalgia for many, many years. She's been to doctors and tried all the pills and everything, and her pain won't go away. And I brought her up on stage, and we do this breakthrough process. And what we discovered is that the reason she was giving herself pain is because she was afraid that her family would leave her, because when she was a child, her dad abandoned her. Now, her way of making sure that people stayed in her life was by having her pain. So her pain was a mechanism of like, hey, you can't leave me because I'm sick, basically. So although consciously you'd be like, well, that's stupid. You're making yourself feel all this pain. Wow. You can't even work. But deep down inside, it's this protection mechanism. Now, once we had that shift, all her pain instantly went away. Like we're talking a decade of pain gone in 30 minutes, you know? It's the same thing often with people that are overweight. What I've found doing sessions is often people that are overweight, women, they've been sexually assaulted. So it's like, well, hey, if I'm overweight and out of shape, no one would ever do that to me again, right? Where consciously it's like, you know, you're killing yourself, you're overweight, you're diabetic, but then subconsciously the mind's like, I don't want to be sexually assaulted again. It could be a protection thing from people. Hey, if I'm overweight, nobody will want to be my friend. Nobody will want to be around me. Therefore, I can't get hurt by people.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
That's so deep.
Yeah. So yeah, it goes deep. And I had this one guy, it's kind of weird, but he couldn't ejaculate when he was having sex with women. I was like, man, that's a great problem to have. You know, this guy just goes for hours and he couldn't ejaculate. Well, after doing the session, what we discovered is that, and how to do it with his dad and his mom and stuff, I can't remember. But what it was is that his mind wouldn't want to let him ejaculate because he felt like if he ejaculated during sex, he would fall in love. And he was afraid that if he fell in love, that he would end up being heartbroken. So it was it's kind of weird, right? So it was his way of like not crossing that last boundary of like letting himself fall in love. I
see so much of this with women, to be honest. Like
what's that? The hurt stuff?
The hurt stuff.
Yeah. So it's interesting. So a lot of women, they'll come in, they're dealing with hurt, a lot of different things. And when you ask them, hey, is it okay to let go? They're obviously in like a trance state. So you ask their subconscious mind, hey, is it okay to let go of your hurt? A lot of times they'll say, no, I don't want to let go of my hurt. Because if I let go of my hurt, I'm going to get hurt again. Now, one of my things that I've developed to help people get out of that mindset is I go, look, if you burned your hand on a stove, okay, do you have to go back and burn your hand on the stove again to remind yourself how hot the stove is? No. You learn your lesson. You say, hey, don't touch the stove again, right? So what's happening when people say, I got to hold on to my hurt so that I don't get hurt again, it's like you're reliving that trauma and you're burning your hand on the stove over and over and over again.
So powerful.
So if you can, then I say is, so what if we could do this? What if we could go into your past and learn all the lessons from all the times you burned your hand on that stove, AKA you were hurt, and we learned all the lessons. That way you don't make those same mistakes and you know what to do instead moving forward. What if we could just learn all those lessons? Just like you learned your lesson when you burn your hand, you don't need to touch it again to remind yourself how hot it is or how much it hurts. If we can do that, is it okay to let it go? And then boom, years and years of hurt and we'll go away.
So the same thing can be rewired with like, let's just say a man that, doesn't commit with a girl is because maybe he has the heart broken and he doesn't want to go over commitment and then...
You talking about yourself?
I may.
So, and look, I used to have this thing where I would get into a relationship with a woman and it would start getting deep and then I'd break up with them. Now, I didn't know this until I got a hypnosis, but I was doing that because I didn't want to get hurt. Because I'm like, oh shit, it's getting too deep. Let me hurt you before you can hurt me. Because if it gets too deep, then I fall too deep in love, you might leave me, you might hurt you, or you might be whatever. So I had this pattern of doing this over and over again with like these really good, obviously I'm married now, but like these in the past, and I would just like hurt these women because I was just afraid of being hurt. Now I didn't know that I was doing that; it was all subconscious.
I feel I'm kind of doing the opposite, to be honest.
What do you mean?
Meaning like I don't want to hurt them.
Yeah.
So like in a phase, eventually, just say I'm dating X, Y, and Z. at a certain, we're dating, whatever. And then in the point that I realized that I don't see this and this and this as a potential quality in her, then in that case, I'm going to start like eventually push back and be like, pull back and be
yeah.
Because I don't want to hurt them deeply, let's just say.
Oh, yeah. Well, no, yeah, there's that too, right? Where it's like, you don't want to hurt them as well. Now, if it was somebody that you wanted to be with, however, you're like, oh, shoot, I'm starting to catch feelings. So it could go either way, right? Like there's definitely girls where you're like, I don't really see her as like wife material, but we're having fun for a little bit, that, right? So yeah, no, that can be a thing. And it can also be either way, right? Of like, now we also will attract people into our lives, and it's typically like the same type of avatar of person over and over again until we clear out whatever mechanisms going on subconsciously that's attracting these people into our lives.
Okay, I have a question then.
Yeah.
Sorry for interrupt you.
No, you're good.
Something that happened to me lately is I keep meeting women that have daddy's issue.
Yeah.
All over and over and over and over and over and fucking over again. And I'm like, why do I meet those women?
Yeah.
Like, I don't get it. So what do you think is like the reason why?
It'd be hard to pinpoint exactly,
Sure.
But I could give you some examples,
Please,
right?
yeah.
You may think it could be like, I'll give you an example of a story of a client. So I had a client who mentioned to me, she's like, we were working on business stuff, but she just like casually said this. She's like, man, I asked her, how's it going? She's like, oh man, I'm this and that. I'm dealing with this person, that person. All these people are so toxic in my life. There's so many toxic people. So I know that that's a huge red flag, and it's something going on within her. It has nothing to do with these people. It's something in her is attracting these people into her lives. So we did a deep dive, and what we discovered is that when she was 4 years old, she had the realization that she helped her dad overcome his anger, right? Because often we're angry or aggressive. So, and daughters will soften us up, right?
Yeah.
And that's happened with me. So as a 4-year-old girl, she had the realization of like, oh my God, I helped my dad overcome his anger. This feels good. So now she subconsciously would attract these toxic, angry people in her life because she wanted to fix them. She wanted to help heal them and overcome that. So she kept drawing in all of these people because she had that belief. Now, once we let go of it, she broke up with a gentleman she had been with for like 6 years. She got out of a business partnership she was in, and she stopped talking to her cousin. All these toxic people, because she no longer aligned with that. Like, we don't call it a belief. It's called a limiting decision. It's something that you're doing. So it could be, again, it could be a number of things, but it could be like, hey, I attract girls that have daddy issues because it makes me feel good to be able to help women that, are down and out. And I feel good about being able to empower somebody who's going through stuff. It could be that. It could be your own unresolved dad issues. And believe me, like, it's funny because we always make fun of women for having daddy issues. Men have just as many daddy issues and mommy issues, and everybody's got it, right?
Yeah.
So it could be your own unresolved stuff going on within you that's sort of showing up in your life as a reflection. So again, it can be many different things, but if you notice a pattern, then it's absolutely something that's some subconscious like mechanism that's happening to where you're attracting and you're creating these people in your experience. So our brain deletes, distorts, and generalizes information, okay? So what that means is that, let's say you wanted a woman that was like, didn't have daddy issues and was 100% wifey material, but you believed at a subconscious level that you weren't good enough to have that level of woman.
Yeah.
That woman could be right in front of your face, but you won't realize it. Okay. So much so check this out. Years ago, I created this sleep hypnosis that's about manifesting money and success. And I gave it to my clients, and right away, either people started creating success, closing deals, making money, all that, right? Now, this other interesting thing happened where people would start listening to it, and on the third or fourth day, the recording would start distorting on them. So in other words, when they were listening to it, they could not understand what it was saying. And nothing changed in there. Yeah, nothing changed in the recording. So much so where they could be in the room with their friend, and they could go, hey, listen to my phone. What does this say? And their friend would look them dead in the face, say the exact words, and they couldn't even understand what their friend was saying.
Oh, wow.
So their friend can hear it, but they couldn't. Now, the reason this started happening, and this all happened accidentally. I didn't know this was going to happen. The reason this happens though is because they have beliefs subconsciously and fears around money, success, abundance, things like this. So the brain goes, hey, we're starting to attract all this stuff in. We don't want it. Let's distort what we're hearing. So, and then once we clear it out, they can hear it again, right? So it's the same thing in relationships with everything. If you have beliefs that are, I can only have this type of woman, or I'm not good enough, or not worthy, or whatever, you will distort, meaning like, again, the person could be right in front of you and you don't even realize they're there. Or it's just like when you drive a Tesla. I bet you see fucking Teslas all the time and they're very apparent to you, right? Now, if you went and bought a Prius, suddenly the Teslas, maybe they're still there, but you'd start seeing Priuses everywhere.
That's the
right? RAS, yeah, reticular. So it's the same thing with like women. If you're attracting women, those are women you're dating and you're seeing, there's something in your subconscious that's like, hey, this is what I deserve, this is what I'm worth, or whatever.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So let's just say that, because we talk about, a relationship status or whatever, but let's just say that someone is struggling with like sugar craving. It's not my case in this case, or emotional needing or whatever. How would you use hypnosis to help them rewire their pattern?
Yeah. So usually when people, going back to like the weight loss stuff, right? It's often a protection mechanism. It can also be that people like to throw their weight around. So maybe they feel insecure or small. So they gain a bunch of weight because they know they can be powerful, or, again, literally throw their weight around. Like me, I'm a big guy. I like being big. Like, I could probably lose 10 pounds and have like really shredded six pack, but I like the way I feel. I like being able to throw like when you're like, dude, you're buff, you're big. I love that. So I don't want to get super skinny and shredded, right? So other people will gain weight to the point where like they literally use it to protect them. So if a client has like sugar cravings and stuff like that, it's going to be some emotional thing, and it's usually around relationships, whether they lost a family member, a breakup, and things like this. And it's a matter of helping them clear the traumas out so that they no longer have those cravings. Now, I don't typically specialize in like weight loss and stuff. I mostly work with like business owners and things like that on their limiting beliefs around business. But that's where I'd start. Also, we have our chakra system in our body. Are you familiar with your chakras or no?
No.
So we have energetic centers. We have our root, sacral, solar, heart, throat, and third eye, and our crown. So have you ever seen like in yoga, they have like the person with the folded legs and it has like a rainbow.
The chakra.
Yeah, the chakra, yeah.
Okay.
So when we're struggling with like a different addiction in our lives, whether it's, it could be working out, could be an addiction. It could be working, like actual doing work is an addiction. Caffeine, carbonated drinks, sweets, chocolate, bread, beer, information, any of those things there's typically an imbalance depending on what you're addicted to in that specific chakra. So if a woman or if somebody's addicted to sweets, often it's their heart chakra that's unbalanced. So wine, chocolate, sweet, aspartame, those are all clear signs. Now this goes beyond hypnosis. This is more like spirituality and stuff. But if people are addicted to Diet Coke, I'm like, oh, they're having heart chakra issues. So they either lost a loved one, lost a friend. It doesn't mean they died. It could be just like the friendship broke up. They went through a breakup, something happened. So in addition to helping them clear like that, I would also tap into whatever chakra. Well, I would help them balance all of their chakras, but I would make it a point to really hone in on the one that they're having the issue with. Remember when we got here, your buddy's like, hey, do you want coffee? I was like, no, I'm 4 months done. Well, one of the reasons I used to be addicted to coffee and nicotine. So coffee and nicotine comes from like healers, shamans. I'm a shaman as well, and also I'm in the healing space. When we don't fully like let go of what other people, because we deal with a lot of people's traumas and stuff.
Yeah.
If we're not filtering it properly, it'll start to bog our energy down, and then we seek caffeine and nicotine to kind of replenish our system. Once I started clearing that up out of my chakra system, like I said, I haven't had coffee, not even a sip in 4 months.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So yeah, and I don't do nicotine. I think I have one nicotine patch in the past 4 months. And I would be 2 and, on a session with a client, just like, so that's what I would do.
Wow. That's awesome. So can someone change drastically after one session?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So
How long does it usually take?
So I do a process, and this is the process I certify people in as well. It's called 6 weeks to success. So it's a process that I've basically created from just doing thousands of sessions. And like you were talking about in one session, I don't like to only do one session.
Sure.
However, somebody can experience a massive breakthrough in just one session. Like I mentioned, the lady who had the pain for a decade, the fibromyalgia, that was gone in like literally 30 minutes. It wasn't even a full session. However, I like to do more than one to really like get in there and clear stuff out. Also, typically when you start clearing stuff in one area, other things will start to come up, right? Oh, like relationship stuff or whatever. So I like to do anywhere from like 6 to 12 sessions with somebody. 6 sessions is like, hey, I want to work on this one area of life. Boom. If it's, hey, I want to work on my relationships, my health, my business, my finances, I'll do like a 12 session kind of thing.
Wow, interesting. Let's go on a deeper state of talk. What's something dark that you've seen in the hypnosis world? Something that made you stop? In other words, what's like a red flag that you see in the world of hypnosis, and you can tell the audience, let's just say they are going to a practitioner, and what's a red flag for them to identify so they are not working with that type of practitioner?
I would say just the person's aura, their energy, their presence, how they show up. And this could literally be like what they wear, what their office looks like. Like those are all key things to me. Where, like you ever notice people that are usually into evil shit wear a lot of black? No, that's not to say that everybody who's wears black. They're like,
yes, definitely.
You know, like,
yes.
So for me, like, to me, I'm like, if I see that in a practitioner, I'm like, I don't know if I would want to work with that person. Here's the other thing about the color black. The color black absorbs energy. You sell solar panels, so you know, right? So believe it or not, it also absorbs other people's negative stuff. So if you're wearing black all the time, you could be taking on and holding on to people's negative energy. So that's why you'll very rarely see me wear black. I will sometimes. So anyways, I would say just that they're who they are, their aura, their personality, and let's say if you know their social media, the kind of content they put out, just depends, right? Like somebody might like that. And I'll also say definitely like their intentions, what they talk about. Right? Do they talk about, oh, I'm so successful, I make so much money, or do they talk about how they help people?
Sure.
So it kind of depends. Like if you're finding somebody's like, I'm so amazing and I'm this and I'm that, and it's more about them more than it is about healing, then that would, to me, that'd probably be a red flag, right? Where it's like there's these coaches online or like, I make $2 million a month and I'm this and I've got this watch and I've got this car and I've got this thing. It's like, and then the actual helping people is like, is
it really about them?
Way down the, yeah, it's about you getting money from people so that you can be this person. Which if that's people want to do, that's fine. I'm all about making money, and by no means am I saying, oh, I'm holier than thou.
I see what you mean.
It's just the messaging, right? Are they constantly like we've been talking, and I'm not talking about how much money I make and I got this and I got that and I'm this and like I'm telling you. So that's just my personal.
I see what you mean.
That's who I would want to work with. I don't want to work with people that are like that. And I have worked with people that that are like that, and that made me go, oh, I get it. This, I love it. It makes sense.
What's one crazy story that you have in your arsenal of experience that you are able to share today, and it can help someone like to understand better about hypnosis, or like, wow, that was an incredible story?
Yeah. So I'll tell you this story, and then we'll do. If you want to do the test, we'll do it, and then I got to roll a dizzy.
Yeah, I love that.
So I had this guy, and this is such a rare thing, but it's literally like one of the craziest things as far as sessions. That if as far as like what the guy came for, what happened. So this guy came to me. He was a Christian pastor. He was married, and he had, I think, 2 kids. And this gentleman was a former like infantry in the military, had been in either Iraq or Afghanistan or both. I don't remember. He's been in war. He's obviously seen things. We didn't really get into it. And this gentleman was also an MMA fighter. He wasn't professional or anything, but he'd been doing MMA for 10 years. So all that will make sense. So I'm prefacing. So the reason this guy came to me is because he was conflicted about his sexuality. He was thinking that he might be gay. And the reason why is because a couple of years before our session, so when he got out of the military, he had some back issues. He got on a bunch of Vicodin and painkillers. And so he was addicted to opium or whatever and all that. So one day he's at home and he's on some pills, laying on the couch watching TV, and somebody comes in, knocks on the door. He gets up in like a Vicodin stupor, just like drugged up, opens the door. It was a random guy he's never seen before. And the guy goes, "Hey, does so-and-so live here?" And he goes, "No, you have the wrong house. You know, and he's like, "Are you sure? You know, so-and-so?" And he's like, "No, man, you have the wrong house." Well, for whatever reason, this guy broke into this guy's house and proceeded to rape him, right? Now, as this guy's being raped, he didn't do anything. He just sat there and took it. So mind you, this guy's an MMA fighter. He's been in war. I don't know if he's killed people, but I'm assuming he has. He didn't say that, but just based off the conversation we're having. Yet this guy broke into his house and raped him. He didn't fight back. So he started to question his sexuality. He's like, "Am I gay? Like, why didn't I fight back? Why didn't I do anything?" He's like, "But I don't get it though, because I'm not attracted to men. I'm married, I have kids, I'm a Christian." And because of the fact that he was Christian and a pastor, it took it to an even higher level of like conflict, right? Like, oh my God. So anyways, we do what I call breakthrough. It's our first session we do with clients is sort of like figuring out what the hell's going on. And what we discovered is that when he was 3 years old, now this was a repressed memory. So often we go through trauma, our subconscious mind will repress it as a protection mechanism because it doesn't want to relive it, so it kind of forgets about it. Well, when he was 3 years old, what we discovered through the hypnosis is that his grandfather had raped him. And when his grandfather raped him, so we have fight, flight, or freeze. You're either going to fight back, you're going to run, or you just freeze. Well, when his grandfather did this to him, he froze. So now, as an adult, when he's under drugs, when you're under drugs, you're highly suggestible, by the way.
Yeah.
Alcohol, drugs. When he's, or at least opium, I don't know about meth and all that, but like those relaxer downer drugs. Well, when he was under the influence and this guy started raping him, essentially what happened is he regressed back to a 3-year-old little boy who was being raped by his grandpa. And that's why he froze. It wasn't that he was gay or he liked it. He just became the little kid again that was afraid and then just like, oh, I guess that happened. So once we cleared that out, after we were done, like the relief that this guy had and just like his aura, his face, everything was like he was like reborn again, no pun intended. And he was like, "Oh my God, dude, I can't believe." He's like, you ever seen that video? That video where it's this dude, he's like a black guy, light-skinned black guy, and he has like a really nice suit on, and he's in a church, and they're all blessing him or something. He's like, "I'm not gay no more."
Yeah.
My friend sent me that meme before. It's like after one session with Don the hypnotist, but it's like that's how he was like, "Dude, I'm not gay." It was just that this happened to my grandpa, and so the relief that this guy had was just amazing because now it's like, hey, I can go back to just being normal and like, yeah, I'm straight. I love my wife. I have kids. I'm a pastor. I'm Christian, and I'm not gay. It's just this thing happened, this trauma from when I was a kid.
That's insane.
It's crazy, right?
Wow.
Yeah, dude. It's fucking wild. So, and look, every gay person I've ever worked with, as far as I know, every single one of them has been raped. And I don't even want to call it molested because, when you go that far, that's rape. That's not molestation is like, touching and things like that's straight up RAPE, which is disgusting. And I don't know. I think that maybe, we're told that it's, something that people can't change or that they're just born that way. And maybe, I don't know. I'm not a scientist. However, it is weird that including women, lesbian women, every single one of them has been raped as a kid. Wow. So it's like, it's kind of weird, that is not weird. I mean, they're not weird. I'm saying it's weird that that is like a common thing, and people think that, people are just born that way. And again, maybe they are. There's got to be something to that, though. Like every single person,
every single client that you work with, they were gay, they had this experience of rape.
Every single one.
Wow.
Man and woman.
Insane.
Every single one. Yeah. So I don't know if that causes it. There's no way. I don't know if there's a way to prove that, but it is interesting. And I've been asked before, like, hey, I'm gay and I want to get rid of these feelings, and I don't know how to do that.
Sure.
Like that was just a one-off thing, you know. I didn't even really, so I was just kind of a crazy, but that was like I've had other weird things happen and crazy stuff happen for sure. As far as like the uniqueness of it, just the whole story behind it. He's a pastor, you know, like he's an MMA fighter. Just the whole thing is just so unique. Bizarre, that's like one of the craziest stories. So,
wow. So I asked last time on Instagram, it's like, hey, you know, I'm gonna interview Dom. Is there any particular question? Everybody said, I want to see you be under hypnosis.
Okay, yeah, of course, right?
Would you be down to?
So let's move this to the side a little bit.
All right.
I'm gonna have you use your hands. So first thing we'll do, move this to the side.
Sure.
Yeah, like that. Okay, cool. Are we still on the camera? Yeah. Okay. So first thing we're going to do is test your imagination. Okay. So remember, hypnosis is all about using our imagination. And also remember what I said earlier, like literally the most successful people in the world have the best imaginations. So we talked about Steve Jobs, right? Steve Jobs literally imagined in his head the iPhone with apps and the internet connected to it and everything. And just through his thought and persistence and hard work alone, we now have the iPhone. Like think how crazy that is, right?
Yeah.
So the better your imagination is, the more hypnotizable you are, because that's all it is. We're using your imagination. Sure. Okay. So what I want you to do is take your dominant hand. Are you right-handed? Okay. Go ahead and close your eyes. And I want you to imagine that I just placed a half-cut lemon in your right hand. Okay. I want you to just pretend and imagine that you can actually feel the weight of the lemon. So go ahead and just kind of play with it with your hand. Feel the weight of it.
Okay.
Pretend like you can feel the texture of the actual lemon. Like you can feel that waxy texture. Okay. And what color is the lemon?
Yellow.
Okay. And imagine like you can see the yellow, you can see the fibers of the inside of the lemon. It's kind of glistening. And then I want you to just take that lemon and I want you to take a giant bite of that lemon. So go ahead and put it up to your mouth, take a giant bite and notice that disgusting sour taste in your mouth. Maybe you're salivating a little bit more. You get those little feelings in your neck, right? Okay, good. Go ahead and open your eyes. How did that taste?
I don't know. I didn't feel too much.
Okay. Now, I noticed on your face, you started to do this kind of thing, right?
Okay, yeah.
So your body started to react as if you had a lemon. Now, there was no lemon. You're not actually going to taste the lemon.
Yeah.
However, your body will have a physical reaction to it.
Okay.
Now, this is so powerful because I've had clients where they're alert, like one client I'm thinking in particular, he was allergic to either bananas or onions, and I forget. And he goes, Dom, if you even talk about bananas or you talk about it in detail, or I think about a banana, or even if I see it, I'll start breaking out in hives. Like that's how powerful our thoughts are. So good. So, okay, now we're going to do another exercise. Now, are you a Star Wars fan at all?
No.
Okay, so there's a character in Star Wars. His name's Yoda. Are you familiar with Yoda?
Is the little midget?
Little green one, yeah. Okay. Little green guy with the big ears. So there's a scene where Luke Skywalker is trying to lift his ship, his his airplane or whatever, using the Force, using his mind, right? And so he's doing it, and he's like, man, I can't do it. He's like, I'm trying. And Yoda has this famous line. He says, do or do not, there is no try. You know what that means? So you either do something or you don't do something. There is no try.
Yeah.
The reason why is because the word try literally means to not do something.
Sure.
The word try paralyzes us at a subconscious level.
Okay.
Okay. Does that make sense? Okay,
yes.
Good. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to take your hands. I want you to put them, you can go ahead and put them out in front. Yeah, like that. And I want you to stare at the space in between your hands.
Okay.
Okay. Matter of fact, you can just stare at a space on my hand. And as you stare at whatever space on my hand you've selected, I want you to pretend or imagine that your hands are the two most powerful magnets in the world.
Okay.
And as you imagine those most powerful magnets in the world, you're going to notice your hands begin to sway. And as your hands begin to sway, they're going to want to move closer and closer together. Because remember, these are the two most powerful magnets in the world, and that's what magnets do. Magnets are attracted to each other. That's right. And as those hands move closer and closer, the magnetic pull is getting stronger and stronger because remember, these are the two most powerful magnets in the world, and that's what magnets do. Magnets get stuck together. And as those hands get closer and closer, they're going to want to begin to touch. And when they begin to touch, I want you to just interlace your fingers. That's right. And as those hands get closer and closer, the magnetic pull is getting stronger and stronger because, remember, these are the two most powerful magnets in the world. That's right. And then whenever those fingers touch, just go ahead and interlace your fingers. And as you interlace your fingers, put your hands together and interlace them and lock them together like this here. That's right. And as those hands come together, go ahead and close your eyes. And as you close your eyes and you're sitting there listening to my voice, you're going to notice your hands are getting tighter and tighter, tighter and tighter. They're getting stuck together because remember, these are the two most powerful magnets in the world, and that's what magnets do. Magnets get stuck together. Now, not yet, but in a moment, you're going to open your eyes, and when you open your eyes, I want you to stare directly at your hands. So go ahead and open your eyes, and as you open your eyes and you stare at your hands, you're going to notice your hands are completely stuck together. Because remember, these are the two most powerful magnets in the world, and that's what magnets do. Magnets get stuck together. Now, not yet, but in a moment, I want you to try to separate your hands. I only want you to try to separate them when you are certain you will not be able to. So go ahead and try to separate them, and you may find that you cannot. And you can try and try. Okay, good job. Now go ahead and put them back together. Now this time, I want you to double the level of magnetism. And remember, I want you to try to separate your hands. So only try to separate your hands when you are certain you will not be able to. So now remember, these are magnets that are facing the proper way. They're not in the opposite direction. And remember, using your imagination has to do with your ability to achieve success. So if you want to make more money, have the woman that you want, it is all going to start in your mind. And the more powerful your mind is, the more powerful your imagination is, the more successful you will be. The harder it is for you to imagine the things that you want, the harder it's going to be successful. Now, I want you to imagine, just pretend for a moment that your hands are the two most powerful magnets in the world, and they are completely stuck together. As a matter of fact, imagine that they are impossible to separate, and no matter how hard you try, you would not be able to separate them. Now, try to separate them, and you will find that you cannot. And you can try and try and try, but those hands are stuck together. That's right. Now, go ahead and close your eyes, and as you close your eyes, and notice as you listen to my voice, you will find yourself going deeper and deeper, more and more relaxed. And as you're sitting there listening to my voice with your hands clasped together, I want you to imagine that your feet have now become the two most powerful magnets in the world. And I want you to imagine that below your feet is a metal plate, and the metal plate is completely stuck to your feet. And again, your feet are the most powerful magnets in the world, and this metal plate is right below your feet, and your feet become completely stuck to the floor. As a matter of fact, they're so stuck to the floor that in a moment when you try to move your feet and you try to stand up, you will not be able to. So go ahead and try to stand up, and you will find that you cannot. And you can try and try and try, but your feet are completely stuck to the floor. That's right. Now I want you to imagine that that magnetism is now traveling to your glutes. So now your glutes are the two most powerful magnets in the world, and your chair is a metal plate. And I want you to imagine that you can feel your glutes being completely stuck to the chair. Matter of fact, they're so stuck to the chair that no matter how hard you try, you will not be able to get out of your chair. So go ahead and try to stand up, and you will find that you cannot. And you can try and try and try, but your hands and your feet and your glutes are completely stuck to the floor. That's right. Now, in a moment, you're going to open your eyes. And when you open your eyes, I want you to just go ahead and stand up out of your chair. Go ahead and open your eyes, and you can stand up out of your chair. The magnets are gone. Just go ahead and release your hands. Yeah. Just go ahead and stand up. Stand up. Right here. And sleep all the way down. All the way down. Deeper and deeper. More and more relaxed. In a moment, when I count to 3, you're going to become the most confident version of you you've ever been. As a matter of fact, you're going to become so confident that you now know you can achieve anything that you want in your life. you can have the woman of your dreams, your business is going to massively explode, and you can create whatever you want in your reality. And when your mind has fully and completely and permanently accepted the suggestion, just go ahead and nod your head for me. All right, on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3, eyes open, wide awake. And you're the most confident version of yourself. You're going to find the woman of your dreams, and your business is going to explode, isn't it?
That's cool.
Let's go. Give a round of applause.
Thanks, man.
All right, how you feeling?
Feel good. So, my feedback, bro, it felt like I wanted to stay in the state.
Yes.
Like the first time that you said like open, like I could.
Yep.
But then you keep reinforcing, and I see where you were going with that. Try and try and try. Like don't do it. I just say try, because before you've been implementing the idea that trying is not doing it, right?
Yes. Yes.
So
Exactly.
I see where you were going with that, and I was like, okay, you know what? Like, it's actually cool to see in this.
Exactly.
In this state of.
But you could come out of it if you wanted
Exactly.
to, right?
Yes.
That's
So
what
it
feels
felt
like.
good because like, you know what? Fuck. Why should I resist it? Like, you know, like I just gonna stay in this fucking thing. Could I move my feet? Yes, I
course,
could.
yeah.
But it was like I like
It feels good,
for
right?
one time
Yeah.
I like to feel like, you know,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
oh, you know.
And what did it feel like when you were like just allowing yourself to be in it?
It felt like I was able to be in a state where I can receive for once instead of rejecting. I can say, you know what, like if this guy knows something more than I do, why should I reject it? Why should I fight it? I come from a place of curiosity and learning from other people, but I don't come from a place of like, hey, like I completely reject the type of interaction. So yeah, it felt like if you know what, like I just get relaxed. Yeah, can I? Sure, I can, but I just
Why?
want to relax in it. Yeah.
So exactly, and so like I said earlier, if somebody doesn't want it, if they're just like, I want to prove that this isn't going to work, or I want to reject it, absolutely you can, right? If I told you to go shoot somebody, you know, you're not going to do it. But it's when it's like you just surrender to the process.
Yeah.
And when you do, again, you're in that place where you're like, okay, I know it. And again, I'm not controlling your mind. It's you allowing it to happen. I'm just guiding you, right? So it's not like I could make you do anything that's crazy.
Yeah.
But you go, I could resist this, but it actually just feels good just
Exactly.
to let it
That's
happen,
how it
right?
felt.
It's like,
Yeah.
and it's this weird thing. And then when I had you stand up, you probably weren't expecting you didn't know what I was going to do or whatever. And I grabbed your hand and I said, sleep. Obviously you didn't go to sleep, right?
Yeah.
So what did you feel? How would you describe when you went into that state?
Yeah, I was like, again, sleep. I know you were going with the sleep part of it. I didn't fall asleep, like I was in my, but then I was like, you know what, let me just close my eyes and keep relaxing in this state and see what happened.
Yeah.
So it was a place of, you know what, like, let me step out from my comfort zone and see what happened.
Yeah.
And
do you feel like your mind was, again, obviously you were here and everything, but it was almost like you're in a space where
safety, in a space of
safe and like open.
Yeah,
and just, like,
open to receive.
Yeah. And that's what we're doing is I want you to be in a place where you're open to receive the suggestions that I give to you, right? Which is what I said is like, you're going to find the woman of your dreams and this and this and that, right? Now, obviously, like reinforcing that and hearing that again and again is going to help install it. And then also, like when your hands came apart, okay, I know as a hypnotist, I just got to keep going and be persistent and just keep going until it actually works. And then once it starts to work, so we talked about the stage shows earlier. So these are like examples of something they would do, right? So the more of those little exercises we do, the more malleable you become.
Yeah.
So you can take somebody, it's called fractionation. You take them in and out of trance, in and out of trance, in and out of trance. And the more you do that, the more you can kind of take them down that road of doing the funny, silly things and all that. So,
gotcha.
But yeah, man, that's how it feels.
I love it.
Yeah.
Off script completely.
Yeah.
Leo, actually, Victor, would you be okay if it's okay with you?
Yeah.
Last one, like, would you be okay to be on it? Can you like let him bark? Is it okay?
What's that?
Can you let Victor bark?
Do you want to do hypnosis?
I'll try it.
Okay, yeah. Okay, let me check the time because hold on. Let me
Lastly,
make sure
and then we're done.
we'll do it. Okay, hold on one second.
That's completely off script, by the way. I just met
hold on one
Victor
second.
today.
Okay, hold on one second. Okay, cool. Now, were you listening whenever we were doing it earlier?
Over there?
We probably won't be able to get in the camera, or we could try it right
Yeah.
here. Okay. I don't know what the camera angle's like
Leo,
or whatever.
let us know.
I'll send it. Okay. Maybe you can sit here. want me to be standing?
Yeah, that works.
Okay, let's.
So let me see your hand.
Let Leo.
Raise your
Hold on.
hand.
Let
Line-
Leo.
Oh, you're gonna do the camera.
Set up the camera.
Okay,
He has to
perfect.
change it a little bit.
Perfect.
Can you go up?
There you go. I think this is as good as it's gonna get.
Perfect.
Did you do the lemon exercise or no? When I was doing it.
I was listening. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I was,
So we'll have you
kinda
good.
paying attention to it.
So I want you. What dominant hand are you?
Right hand. And I'll let you know too. Like in high school, they had hypnosis.
Oh, did you?
And I did a little. I took a psychology class, and I thought I wasn't hypnotizable.
So what happened when you did the hypnosis? When the guy came to the thing?
I was one of the people that he was like, no.
Oh,
But
okay.
I'm open to. I'm like what do you call it? The wishy-washy person. Like,
Yeah,
I'm not opposed to it, but
Okay, cool.
I don't think.
Okay, well, do you feel safe in my presence?
I feel
Okay,
safe in your
perfect.
presence.
Let me see. Look at your hand and sleep all the way down, deeper and deeper, more and more. Relax. That's right. Now I want you to imagine that your body is the most powerful magnet in the world, and beneath your body is a metal plate, and you become completely stuck to the floor. And no matter how hard you try, you will not be able to stand up. So go ahead and try to stand up, and you will find that you cannot. And you can try and try and try, but you're completely stuck to the floor. That's right. I want you to imagine that your left arm, every time I touch it, it becomes stiff and rigid like a metal pole. So stiff and rigid, rigid and stiff. Your muscles flex, you become stiff and rigid, rigid and stiff. 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 Now in a moment, I want you to try to bend your arm. And when you try to bend your arm, you will not be able to. So go ahead and try to bend your arm, and you will find that you cannot. And you can try and try and try, but you will not be able to bend your arm. Now go ahead and relax your arm. Just let it go nice and relaxed. That's right. I'm going to take your right arm here, just nice and safe. Put it right next to you. That's right. Now in a moment, I'm going to count to 3 and snap my fingers. When I snap my fingers, you're going to become an aggressive pit bull and bark at the top of your lungs. Okay, on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3, go ahead and open your eyes, and you are now an aggressive pit bull. Bark at the top of your lungs. That's right, bark louder. Go, go, go. Bark, bark, bark. Bark, go, you got it, go. Bark, bark. Louder, louder, louder. You can do better than that. Come on, bark, bark, bark. Louder, 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 bark. You're a pit bull, bark, 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 bark. You got it, that's right. Okay, and sleep. Close your eyes all the way down, all the way down. Deeper and deeper, more and more. Relax. That's right. Now, what is his name again?
Victor.
Victor. Victor. You just came out here from from Connecticut, correct?
Yes.
And what did you come out here for?
Filmmaking.
Wonderful. Victor, you are now a world-class filmmaker. You create so much amazing films that everybody wants to hire you to create their films for them, whether it's podcasts, whether it's content, movies, whatever you want to create, you now create it into reality. You believe in yourself. You know you are good enough to create the most amazing content, to make the connections to the people that are going to hire you and pay you top dollar for your services. That's right. And whenever your mind has fully and permanently accepted that suggestion, just go ahead and nod your head for me. All right, that's right. So when I count to 3, you're going to come back to the room. You're no longer a pit bull. You're no longer a magnet, and you're going to be completely excited about going into the rest of your day, creating the life of your dreams. Okay, on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3, eyes open, wide awake. All right, how you feeling, Victor? Good. What's today's date? I think it's the 5th. Now, so notice he started to bark, right, and then he's kind of resisted. So, if I wanted to go, let's say I want to go deeper and like really get him into it, we would go back and forth with the different exercises. So we talked about the stage shows. So every little part of hypnosis that you do takes people deeper into the process. Mm-hmm. Now, if you notice with him, I didn't do the lemon, I didn't do the magnet, I just went straight into the rapid induction. And notice how it worked, right?
Yeah, I was really surprised how good that was.
How fast it was, right? And then
how fast and just like how I really was like knocked out.
Yeah. It was cool, huh? So part of why it works, so that was what's called a pattern interrupt. So remember we talked earlier about like, hey, if something happens and the guy comes to the door, he's like, hey, come this way.
Yeah.
So I was like, hey, did you do the lemon exercise? And you probably thought we were going to do that, right?
Yeah, I was about to.
You're about to do it. So because he saw that was his pattern, I wanted to interrupt his pattern. And then I said, hey, look at your hand, and I just boom right into it, right? So there's that, and then laying him on the floor, obviously. And I asked him, hey, do you feel safe with me? And he said, yeah, I feel safe. I wanted to ask him that because when I put him back, I wanted to make sure he wasn't gonna like resist going down. So I'm like, hey, do you feel safe? He's like, yeah. So then when I put him back, he just kind of went with it, right? Now, obviously, when we started doing the barking, he started barking. And he's like, oh, this is kind of goofy. I'm on camera. What's happening? You know?
You know, I started laughing. I thought it was too funny.
Uh-huh.
And I think that's why I wasn't able to do barking.
Yeah, you started for a little bit. It was good. But yeah, so yeah, that's how it works, man. And look, a lot of it is Victor, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Victor's been listening to me this entire time. He obviously likes me to some degree, right? And he's heard me explain it to you. So a lot of the stuff that you would normally do with, say, a random person has already kind of been done. So, like, if you've ever seen, and this is possible, where you can go up to a random person on the street and grab them and put them in trance. However, I don't really recommend it because, you know, if you do that with the wrong person, like if somebody did that with me, we're gonna have a huge problem. So, but my point of saying this is, even though I didn't do the magnetic hands and everything, he already kind of saw it, so I didn't need to do it, right? Where if I had a super skeptical person, I'd have to start it from the top and go to, yeah. So,
I love it.
was that pretty cool?
Don, thank you so much.
Oh, yeah,
I
man.
appreciate you, brother. Thank you.